women that can run multi-million-dollar companies and they cannot receive, they cannot let it in and feel good. I'll do it all. I'll do it myself. I won't ask for any help. If I ask for help, it's a failure. We're sort of set up to fail.
Guilt, shame. Why don't I feel recharged? I need a vacation from my vacation.
When good things happen, that part of your brain, it's off.
You don't even know what you should do more of because none of it even feels good right now.
Sexual health and wellness is wellness, especially for women.
How deep can we get into this?
I'll go balls deep if we're good with that.
So
if you'll
that's
let
what
me.
we're going to do. We're going to go balls deep today. Hey everyone, on today's podcast, it's actually being hosted by two people. It is being hosted by the Earn Your Happy podcast, which is me, Lori Harder, and
Lindsey Schwartz. I wanted to give myself like a rapper shot. Lindsey Schwartz, Powerhouse Women. Wah, wah, wah.
Sorry.
So we take this seriously.
This is called Bringing More Pleasure into Your Life, which is our entire topic of this podcast because we are sitting with the beautiful, extraordinary, brilliant Dr. Jordin Wiggins.
Hi.
Hi. And I have to start with sharing kind of how I got to be in your presence right now, which is so exciting that you came into my world. I needed an incredible doctor, your naturopathic doctor, which was even better, which was very exciting for me, to come in and partner with me on talking about gloci, which is my new product, a beauty hydration company, which is a skin routine that you can drink. So we have been talking on prior podcasts to this one all about the different benefits of gloci and all the different ingredients that are in there.
Which there are many.
That has been so much fun talking about digestion, talking about bloating, talking about hydration, and getting back to kind of those simple routines to help unclutter your mind. So how is that, first of all, how has that experience of chatting all about this been?
Loved every minute of it. I got to be a little nerdy and
yes,
just so excited to meet you and be a part of gloci and what you're creating. And what I love about it is it's not just a product. You were just so intentional about it to help with digestion and bloating and just helping women feel lighter, which is what I keep hearing so many of us want.
And it's the same, it's the same in what you do is just, I think the whole goal is to walk through life feeling lighter, like to not feel so bogged down, to feel more like you can be yourself. And I feel like all the work that we all do is like,
so true.
How can we go through life just not like feeling more us and not feeling so weighed down by all the stories, by the food that we're eating, by the relationships that we're in, that all feels so heavy. So it's so cool that I think gloci and then all the work that we do is super intentionally to make you feel lighter and also glow. Like, I think that when you just get back to who you are meant to be, people are so attracted to you because you are like glowing from the inside out. So you got to be nerdy. Now today we get to be dirty.
Oh,
nerdy.
Well,
say it again.
I basically just invited myself to this conversation because I was like, wait, you're going to talk a little bit about something that I think is so tied to our bigger purpose and us realizing our dreams, which is connecting with pleasure. And I'm so excited to have this conversation. So thanks for letting me pull up a chair and get to be a part of it because it's so important. And this is actually a rabbit hole I've been going down in my own life.
Which I'm actually even more excited to have you in this conversation because I know that this is like what you are super exploring right now. Just
which that's in itself sounds dirty, but what I'm actually,
we're going to have a lot of innuendo
so
and
excited.
double meanings on this.
Send this to your inappropriate friend. But I am so excited to have the conversation and open it up because I do think that this is a conversation that can change so much for the women listening. And I'm happy to be the one to open up that conversation.
Opening it up.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, there we go. And what was even more hilarious is when we asked how deep can we get into this? And what was your reply?
I'll go balls deep if we're good with that.
So
if you'll
that's
let
what
me.
we're going to do. We're going to go balls deep today. Well, we'll see what we end up doing. But why don't we start there? What does that even mean? Lindsey, you think of a question. I'm already uncomfortable.
Well, I haven't had a chance to really hear your backstory. So for anyone who's listening to this on Powerhouse Women, they haven't gotten to hear your interviews on the Earn Your Happy podcast. Tell us a little bit about how did you go from naturopathic doctor to sitting in this chair
to pleasure doctor?
Yeah,
balls
saying
deep.
balls deep. Because I actually think this is going to set us up for a really, really great conversation.
Yes. So I was noticing, it was my dream due to my own health struggles, hormone, mental health struggles, to own and operate a women's health clinic. That was we were talking about this at lunch. That was like my North Star. And I did that, and it was amazing. It was a space where women could come and feel heard and get answers to their problems that they'd seen several specialists before, and they just wanted to feel amazing and they weren't getting answers elsewhere. So I did that. And then I started to hear reflected back from my patients, they're feeling better. They're sleeping better. Their hair's growing, their weight's coming off again, their energy's back. But they just kept saying, I don't feel like myself. I'm not as happy as I should be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they'd have so much to feel grateful for: success in career, great partners, so much good. They take the vacations, they have the house, and then they're still not happy. Mm-hmm. And it was also reflected in me, because that was my dream. Own and operate this clinic in my hometown, and it's a space where women can come to heal and feel better and have answers. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, is this it? There was this sort of emptiness. And if I really looked at my health, I was operating a big business. I hadn't really been trained on how to do that. I had coaches, I had employees, associate doctors. Like, it was a big business to manage on top of a full patient load. And I wasn't really sleeping, having wine at night to calm down, way too much coffee during the day. I had acne at that point in my early 30s. And it was just like, okay, wait a minute. Something is wrong here. And yes, I was going to the gym and I was eating fairly healthy, but I was just so stressed and overwhelmed. And yes, I was like I checked the boxes. I was doing the things that I set out to do, achieving the goals that I set out for myself, but something was missing and I didn't have words for what that was. And that was the same thing that all my patients were reflecting. So what I learned is that medically, that's called anhedonia. And that means the inability to feel pleasure or not feel as happy as you used to feel. And it's a diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder. And just so many women, they're like, I'm not really sure I'm depressed, but I told my doctor I don't feel like myself, and they gave me an antidepressant, but like, should I take this? They were just sort of,
like more lost.
Yeah, we're like, is this right? Should we do this? I was offered an antidepressant at several points throughout my health journey. And which is awesome. If you take antidepressants and they help you feel better, that's amazing. But this was something that was almost even harder to quantify, and it was lacking pleasure.
Yes.
Lacking pleasure and joy.
Yeah. Which I can put myself in those shoes, and just even like knowing how hard I work to get to certain milestones, it's almost then there's guilt to even admit that, because the life that we're living might be the life we once prayed for. We have these goals or these things in our life that we once prayed for. So how much is that also an element that we aren't even talking about it, because there's the guilt factor, the shame. Yes.
It's huge. I have clients that have had the biggest award or accolade of their career, something that they've worked 10 years for, 20 years for, and they they're like, I'm not happy. I can't, like, okay, so now what? Like this pinnacle that they worked so hard for, and then they don't feel good. And then you don't even want to tell your family or your friends or the people around you that have supported you that, that inside you're empty. It's not landing. You're not receiving it. The joy isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's a multifactorial problem. One is that when we're working so hard and we're achieving, we're doing the parts of our brain that we're using, our nervous system, our cortisol, like we're inflamed a lot of the time. So our bodies are in that fight or flight state. And we need to be able to do that to survive and achieve, but we also need to be able to rest and be. And there's this massive imbalance that I see, and especially like the more successful the person, a lot of times the more the pleasure centers in their brain are turned off. And they've done MRIs on people's brains. And that was kind of when it sunk into me. It was, oh my goodness, I'm in fight or flight. I'm in my CEO. I'm achieving. I'm, reading research articles and solving these complex cases for my patients. Like I'm doing. And the pleasure centers in my brain are off. So I can't receive any of the good. I don't feel good. Even, you're focused on the next thing on the to-do list, the next goal. So then when good things happen, that part of your brain that that should be on, that you should be receiving, you should be feeling good, it's off. So these things are happening and you feel numb.
I never thought about this as a physiological thing. I always thought about it from the mindset component.
Well, I did a lot of blame and shame of myself. Like, okay, I've had everything I said I wanted and I'm not happy. So I must be screwed up. What's wrong with my mindset? What coach do I need? What therapy do I need? But the actions that we need to take are towards pleasure and making pleasure a practice and a part of our lives so that those centers in our brain are turned on. So if you're on stage winning an award or achieving that next thing that you wanted to achieve, you're happy and you're present. And it translates into personal lives as well. Like we work so hard and then we'll go on a vacation. But my clients will talk about it like, I just had the most amazing vacation. We had a chef, we had all the things, and I wasn't present. I wasn't I wasn't as happy as I should be in that moment. Or it takes them the whole trip to like relax basically.
Yes.
And sometimes it's 2 weeks or before they're even in the zone, and then they have to go home and then deal with all the things from being away.
Yes. And
for
then
that
more
time.
Guilt, shame. Why don't I feel recharged? I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yes.
Okay, this is radical. And I know we were going down a rabbit hole of your content, and you mentioned a really powerful word, which is receiving. How much does the balance between giving and receiving show up in the root of this issue for women?
I think for women specifically, I think it's huge. I think that's why women are 2 times more likely to be on an antidepressant than men. That's why 1 in 2 women globally suffers from sexual dysfunction. And these are like, sex is pleasure. It's feeling good. It should feel good. Unless you want it to be painful, and that's your thing. But
have at it.
Sex should feel good. That's pleasure. That's like the ultimate receiving. And I have women that just like, they're trying to get it over with. They're in their heads. They're thinking about their to-do list. They're thinking about emails they have to send. Like they're not actually present in the moment to receive pleasure. And when the pleasure centers in your brain are off, touch doesn't even feel as good. My clients they'll say like, my vagina's numb. Or they'll have orgasms, but they're short, or they start interacting with my content and then they're like, wait a minute, so I could have like an orgasm that lasts like minutes or as long as I wanted to, and they're just like, I didn't know that was a thing.
No one tells us this.
No.
By the way.
I know,
Until
it is.
now.
Yeah.
But really, I'm almost 40 and just now learning a lot of these things that you're talking about, because these aren't conversations that are normally introduced. And
No.
Oh, and it's censored, like
completely.
on my content censored all the time. People find me and they're like, why don't you have like 200,000 followers? Well, because no one
You gotta
sees
come
my content.
in here for the good stuff. You gotta
That's
go.
right.
You gotta go follow her and get in her inner circle. That's how that's gonna be.
Yeah, it's a taboo conversation. It makes some people uncomfortable. And I think even some of it is when things are going really well, or they look like they're going really well online, people don't often want to raise their hand and be like, but actually
Right.
this area,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the shame. Again, we like to blame ourselves, but yes, women we're conditioned to overgive and overfunction and be like, okay, I'm talking right now. Like, is this good for them? Do they like what I like? Is this, gonna make them happy?
Mm-hmm.
And always thinking about the other person, taking the temperature of the room. How does everyone else feel? Like, don't take up too much space. And it's give, give, give. And that over time, that puts us in that state, that sympathetic, burnt out state where our pleasure centers are turned off. And then we call it crusty in the pleasure collective, but like, bitchy, nagging, like all these
I like
things.
crusty better.
Yeah,
Crusty feels
we
good.
we reclaimed crusty like as a nice way of saying those other things that we're not ourselves. We're not showing up how we would want to. We're a little snappier, but when we give, and we don't know how to receive it, there's just that natural imbalance that happens. Our tank's empty and we're trying to give from an empty tank, and it just doesn't work long term without being crusty. And it's interesting because then I'll see two things happen. It's either that the woman, I call her a superwoman, it's kind of like my archetype that I chat about all the time, because it's I'll do it all, I'll do it myself.
Yes.
I won't ask for any help. If I ask for help, it's a failure. I'm, weak. I couldn't do it all. Like, we're sort of set up to fail and be burnt out and not know how to actually receive the help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like what happens in the bedroom and sex seems to mirror that in life. So she's not even feeling as good as she could in life or in sex.
And we don't make the correlation.
No one ever does.
Like not being able to receive help, or I started noticing just how hard it even was for me to receive like a compliment.
Exactly.
I would always deflect it. I would always say, if someone would compliment my outfit, I'd be like, but there's a hole right here. Like, yes, these are holy jeans. Oh, the Midwest, I got it on sale.
I got it on sale.
But what it really was is it was a deflection. It was an inability to receive.
Yes, to let it in and let it feel good. And it fascinates me. Women that can run multi-million-dollar companies, perform surgeries that nobody can do in the world, win a Grammy, and they cannot receive. They cannot let it in and feel good.
Yeah.
So it's such an interesting place, because even though pleasure is coming to them, it doesn't feel pleasurable. It's such a weird, because I've definitely had I'm so relating to like going on the vacation or doing these like incredible European trips and going, everyone says these are supposed to be amazing, and I'm like not here for it. Like, so how do you, it's like this is where you come in. How do you even start to think that you don't even know what you should do more of, because none of it even feels good right now.
When the pleasure centers in your brain are off,
everything's off.
It doesn't feel good. Our capacity to receive, like from the hormonal nervous system, just from our like physiology, it's not going to feel as good as when the pleasure centers in our brain are on. So then I went on this journey of, okay, well, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And then how do I teach other women how to do it? Because this is affecting how they show up in their relationships with their children, friendships, if they even have any, because it's even hard to like connect to people when you have your superwoman cape on or the walls are up.
Yep.
So practicing pleasure, making that a part of our day, and then this is pleasure in and out of the bedroom, because people sometimes even the word pleasure makes them a little squirmy or uncomfortable.
And isn't that interesting too? Because it's when I'm hearing you talk about it, you're talking about enjoying your life, all facets of it, all facets of your life as a woman. And that the fact that that word has been turned in this way and turned into taboo, I mean, that just goes to show you how deep like the societal conditioning is to disconnect us from something that really is like a birthright to experience pleasure in all forms.
Pleasure is a birthright, and feeling good, you think, should be like, that's just our natural state of being. If we look at kids or animals, like they want to do things that are fun and feel good, and they want to not like do things that hurt. They want to go towards pleasure, stay away from pain. But we get conditioned that it has to be hard, it has to be a struggle. If it's easy, it's bad somehow. And
my dogs hump everything publicly. They have zero shame.
No shame.
They're like, we're getting some pleasure right over here, right now in front of 40 people. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not suggesting that we go and hump things as a pleasure practice in public.
Although in LA, I have heard some things. So
this is going to be such a great trailer. But the truth is,
thank you for always bringing it back.
That experiencing pleasure and learning to receive on all levels is directly tied to success. Can you talk about that? Because for those that listening that are like, yeah, just get to the part where you tell me how to grow my business. You're not gonna like this very much, because
there is a direct correlation between, like, we call it the return on sex, the return on pleasure.
Say more, please.
Yes.
Which is the better that you are feeling, the more those pleasure centers are turned on, the more success in business you have. And I thought that I was setting out to fix a libido and an anhedonic, like low mood, low sex drive, just like women not feeling like alive and energetic and like themselves. That's what I thought I was fixing. But then as I was working with women in the early days and developing the curriculum and learning all these things, then they were getting promoted. Then they were having these opportunities. Then they were closing bigger deals than they ever had. They were, healing relationships that, like, some marriages that were kind of on the rocks, but then they were able to really reconnect. So and if we think about it, like, if you think back to a time in your life when you were having really, really good sex, how did it feel? Everything felt easy and light, and you had energy, and things just sort of flowed and seemed to happen for you almost. You feel like on top of the world, people will say a lot of the time. Also, if you haven't had sex like that, call me. Because we need to learn more. Okay, not also call me personally.
I was like, let's clarify. Call to learn. Call for a good time. Don't call.
I was just imagining like a 1-800 number flashing at the bottom.
We're going to give you a different number.
Because I'm going to give you that time.
We're going to give you a different number for that, which is not mine.
But I think having these conversations so that people women can break out of this feeling like, oh, that's just how it is. There's not more available for me. This is how I was told pleasure looked in my life. This is how I saw other women in my life talk about it. Unless we start having these conversations that there is another option in whatever way you want to experience pleasure, whether that's making a shit ton of money in your business or in other ways, it's important to first start by, no, there are people having really great sex and making a lot of money in their business, and it feels easy and fun and flowy because it's coming from a totally different energy state.
Mm-hmm. Completely. And I love that you brought that up, because it's like we don't think it's possible, and we're taught that it's not possible, and we're taught to excuse it. Like, oh, well, I have kids now, or, oh, I'm in my 40s, like going to be perimenopausal soon. So like there's just excuse for women to not fully be in their pleasure. Mm-hmm. And we even have the conditioning that if you see a woman that is, and she is radiating, and she like draws people in, and she feels like you can tell she kind of owns her like sexual power, like all of her, right? Not just the pieces that she feels are safe to share. Like she's truly an embodied woman. Like society has a lot of negative things to say about her too, and her sexuality. So we get it from many angles that keeps this part of us repressed, but sexual health and wellness like is wellness. I think it's the foundation of wellness, or it should be, especially for women.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone is listening to this, realizing that certain parts are numb, or, but truly like this is waking them up to the fact that, okay, I haven't experienced anything close to this level of pleasure in my life, or this level of ease in my business. What are some of the tangible places to start? Because what I know from being someone whose nervous system was very trained to be on all the time, I'm actually just getting to the point where I'm learning how to slow down, which is a whole journey in itself. Like,
it's a learning.
I think being such a high achiever, I want to receive the checklist that tells me how to slow down, how to surrender more, how to receive more.
I did it.
And then I get to check it off, which is this is the opposite of what you're saying. So
yeah, and this work deepens, and I just get rooms full of women like you where we talk about, we're like, okay, this is not a check. They're like, tell me what to do. Yeah. Like, give me my next checklist.
Like day
item.
One, they show up with their notepad and you're like, oh, honey.
Yeah,
like, so cute.
We're gonna burn that.
We're going in.
You throw it in a fire.
I should do that. Next retreat, there will be a fire.
Yes.
You tell them to come prepared day one with a notebook and pen, and then you toss the notebooks in the fire. I like that.
I really like this. Fire's always good at retreats.
Yeah. So, and I think I'm constantly bringing women, it's back to this internal knowing, and back to the feminine power that has always been there, but we've been conditioned away from it. Like, oh, it's too woo. Or we were talking about meditating to fill a retreat. Like a masculine thing would be, okay, well, I'm going to make this many calls and I'm going to do that, like, right. Yeah. But it's just a totally different way of thinking and being. And I talk about like microdosing pleasure and things at the beginning, because literally, even if I give people all the tools and teachings at the beginning, they can't receive it. Like, our nervous systems are not in the state to receive it. They can't. So we almost need to start like microdosing our pleasure in simple ways. So if your vagina is numb, we'll talk about this.
It's your high-waisted jeans, but
also that
we can't breathe properly, and a pelvic floor dysfunction and maybe pain.
Or denim.
Yeah. That rides up and is painful.
True.
So I'm obviously a big proponent of some type of pleasure practice daily that includes self-pleasure things as well as out of the bedroom things. And a lot of times I'm starting with the out of the bedroom things, because those seem to be a little easier to receive or implement. So softening anything works so well to increase sensation and slowing down. And we talked about this earlier, but I'll say it about sex. If you're numb, the best thing that you could do is slow down and visually soften any area, like anything that's being touched, like try and soften that, or like visualize softening your vagina.
Like through your whole body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will increase pleasurable sensation if you do it. Because when we're stressed and we're tense, like, and if you're touching tense muscle, it doesn't have as much sensation. Our blood flow when we're stressed is to our lungs and our heart and other organs. Like, it's not
Where
about
it's
feeling
supposed
good.
to be.
It's all in our brains, not our, where it needs to be.
Most of us have sex in that state. And we talked about earlier kissing. Like, if you're numb when you're kissing your lips, like, so we need to soften both of our lips.
All of them. The whole gamut.
The whole gamut.
And slowing down. Like, we just live life at such a pace that we do nothing slow. Everything is fast and immediate. And that's like the opposite of pleasure. So going 10 times slower than you think you should would increase sensation and softening. And we can talk about that even in our daily routine. If you are moisturizing your face, like, do it slowly. Enjoy the feel of the product on your skin. Like, really actually try and feel what you're doing. Get in your body. And then if we add those things throughout our day, I call them pleasure anchors, we're going to be dropping into that state where we're more and more able to receive. And it's so funny. Like, I'll even do an exercise of feeling good. Like, think of a time recently where something amazing happened, or like a really big success or something that made you happy. It even could be looking at your dogs, like, you know,
relatable,
that brings you pleasure and joy, and like locate that feeling in your body and then try and expand it and hold it. And how quickly a superwoman will eject and go somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
Like, out of the pleasurable sensation. And especially if she's had sexual trauma, and just like, we're taught that feeling good is bad. And we do that inside, like in the bedroom and out of the bedroom.
Talking about more of like the out of the bedroom, easy, very tangible places to go with this. When I heard you earlier talking about slowing down, one of the things that, as I was on this journey of just realizing that I just always felt like my nervous system was on. I wasn't even connecting it to the feeling of pleasure just in my life in general, but I realized how I am always, actually this is previous because this isn't true today, in a hurry. If I'm walking my
fast.
dog, I'm in a hurry. If I'm at the gym, I'm thinking about the thing I have to get back to. I was never just really present. So I created this like simple practice of leaving buffers in my calendar. And it felt so painful to put them in at first because I was like, but I could be making a phone call in those 15 minutes. And whether it's just that I need that time to breathe, or I need that time to leisurely make my way to my next appointment, not be like,
rush.
I think I'm like secretly an adrenaline junkie.
Oh, totally. And we'll get our dopamine hits from that, but like, they're quick and they're gone. It's not that like nourishing, and it's different, right? Because it's going slower, but like, you slow down to speed up instead of like going, doing, hurrying, rushing, where that sensation is there and then it leaves. Like, when the sex and the intimacy and the pleasure that we talk about, that I teach clients to have, it's nourishing. It's like you talk about it for days after because it was that good. It fills you up. It's not like you're eating candy. You know what I mean? It's not nourishing. Like, to do those from the hurried, from have the like checkbox sex that's just the same things that maybe you do it as a routine. Maybe you know what to do to get your partner off. So you're just like doing that, but you're not, that's like eating candy. It's like good at the time, but like, it's not nourishing. It's not filling you up. And then when we're really learning to slow down and receive and be present and feel pleasure and like connect, because it's kind of safe, right? To feel hurried all the time or checking things off the list.
You don't
like
have to be in an emotion long. You're like, I don't want to sit there long.
Well, that's what I realized is I was telling you before we recorded that I'm in this season of really disconnecting the feeling of stillness with laziness, realizing that being still, having those pauses during my day, just having more slowness, is that a word?
Yeah, it is now.
Isn't the same thing as being lazy. But what I also realized is in my hurried, always needing to try and be as productive as I can, I also didn't have to feel things emotionally. That maybe was just like a simple emotion that I kind of needed to process through that day so I didn't take it into the next day. And it's been this really beautiful journey that I feel like I'm just starting out on to understand how much beauty can be in those softer moments, those slower moments, the stillness.
Oh yeah, we don't want to feel. And that I wish, and I explain it like the pleasure and pain dial. It's the same dial. We want it. People come to me just wanting to turn up the pleasure dial and feel more pleasure and be able to receive that and like just enjoy the good in their lives. But it also means feeling more pain too. Like the work is really being present with high sensation.
Yeah.
That's the point. And it would be nice if we could just be more present with the good ones. But when we're opening to feel, it's opening to feel all of it. But then the depth at which you can experience life and enjoy it and connect to other people and to your authentic self, like that's so beautiful. I feel like it's the point.
Yeah. So what do you say to someone who doesn't buy yet the fact that results can not only happen in more of the softness, stillness, but better results can happen? Or the person who's like, wait, are you telling me I just need to like be flowy all the time? I can never be in my, because I won't say that I'm fighting you on this. A previous version of me might have, but I also feel like I love my ambitious side. I love my get shit done side. I know it doesn't have to be either or, but what would you say to the person who's having a hard time, if they've even listened this far?
Yeah,
they might have turned this off.
I was just gonna say, I'm even like, I'm in this place right now where I'm busier and I can't unbusy. So I'm trying to take it from a space of that same question, but how can the busy person go slow despite a busier schedule right now?
Great. I get this all the time. Okay. So I love it. And it would have been me too, because that was the first 30 years of my life and how, maybe even 30 plus, if I'm honest, and how I lived it. And it's a both and situation. It's our yin and yang. We need both. So I am never asking women to put down the superwoman cape like that. That's there. It's just, we want to learn how to hang it up from
Get
time
it dry
to time.
cleaned.
And then
send it away to the cleaners.
Couple days.
And then when you want it back, like, we know how to do this. This part of us will not go away. And I think just, our conditioning of how we need to fit into a box and we need to be this or this. We can't be both. That's what comes in. And I also think it's an excuse that we use to not do the work because we are scared and think that I am going to be like a witch boiling things over a cauldron or a fire, or we are running in fields of daisies and flowy dresses. And that's like not at all what I mean. It's about finding pleasure, adding pleasure in whatever capacity so that we can receive it, so that when you are in a busy season and you have less time, because I'll go in and out of this work with if I'm in a really high stress time, the pleasure centers in my brain are off. I know this. I'm not as motivated to do things that feel good. I'm more motivated to cross off the to-do list. But it's giving yourself grace in those seasons and knowing how to drop in. But that's why I like those things, like intentionally make your tea, intentionally shower, and like notice how things smell, notice how the water feels on your skin. Intentionally move your body in whatever way feels good, but we're not doing it to check it off. We're doing it for how it feels. And that's another thing, like I don't know how many patients, clients I've had in the past that they do, I'll pick on running, but like they run, but they hate it. And they're like, well, I need to get my miles in or whatever. And it's like, but you hate it. Why are you doing it? Well, you know, my weight, and it's good for my cardiovascular health, and it helps with my, you know, stress or whatever. But like they hate it. And it's like, okay, let's do an activity where you still get to move and you still get the health benefits and you still get to, but you love it. Like, why is that not a thing?
Yeah.
That is a crazy thing.
Okay, this is so good. I know you have a book that's all about this. I know you have an amazing online presence where you share a lot of these tips. So is there anything else we want to ask before we have Jordin just share where everybody can now cyberstalk her?
I think, first of all, you gave such great tips that I am even going to be using in my life for right now. And then I think just once we get that, that's when we're like, what else do you have to offer? So I know that you have awesome retreats. You have a retreat that you're constantly able to put people in, which is exciting. So if you could tell us about that too.
Yeah. So I have a 12-month program for high achieving women that want to like really implement this stuff, and like me, that need to be held accountable to doing so. So it's small, it's intimate. We do in-person retreats and we talk about all the things: better sex, receiving, presence, connection, like how to do it all without having to give up our power, without having to give up what we've built. So I love it. That's like my favorite thing on the planet is doing those retreats and hosting those workshops and everything, to see the light bulbs go off, and even the skeptics, right? Then when they're like, okay, like I get it. My business is doing so much. Yeah. My business is doing better. You were right.
That's amazing. So tell us about the book too, and then where people can connect with you.
My book is called The Pink Canary. It's the hidden secret to optimal wellness for women. So obviously we know it's pleasure.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
And my podcast, the Pleasure Principles podcast, would be another great place to start, just for more on this, more tips, more ways to implement. And I'm on Instagram at Dr. Jordin Wiggins. So send me a DM if you have any questions.
Well, this is one of those podcasts for me that, like you said, I'm walking away with really simple, very implementable strategies to start to feel different in my business, in my life. And I mean, it really can be that simple to start with those daily habits of bringing more presence into the little things that we're doing. And I know, I mean, like I said, I've already been on this journey, but I know that on the other side of it is just this whole other way of operating that is going to make an even bigger impact. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing so that we can all serve the people we want to serve in a bigger way.
Thank you so much for having me. And I dare you to try it, skeptics. Like do it, do a pleasure practice
Called out.
For 3
Try
weeks.
Now they're going to do it.
Do it for 3 weeks and then message me and tell me how it's not better, how everything is not better.
Yes. Oh
So
my
good.
goodness.
Well, we are so grateful for you. Like this was such a good conversation. I literally actually was over here just I was practicing softening the whole time, which also made me not really open my mouth. So truly I was like, this is such a good conversation.
But how good do your lips feel?
I feel amazing actually right now.
She loosened her lips.
We'll just leave that right there. Okay. And on that note, make sure you go and check out everything from Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and obviously go follow Powerhouse Women and Earn Your Happy. We love all the things whenever you share them. It's how podcasts get out in the world. And gloci, go drink your gloci. Seriously. It's very important if you want to glow.
Stay hydrated, friends.
Stay hydrated. All right, you guys, until next time, earn your happy and be freaking glossy.